Hello, everyone. Welcome to Neil and Doug Go to the Movies. This is episode 2. And you know how we said last time that this was going to be a break from the miserable, terrible, disappointing things that we love, like the Pittsburgh Pirates? That was a lie, because today we are going to talk about the Star Wars prequels, which are also big disappointments from a franchise that most of us love and enjoy. So, Doug, how are you doing today?
I am excellent. Neil, that is a great correlation. The Pirates had a great history, right?
Mm-hmm.
Were an iconic franchise. Just like the first 3 Star Wars films, which are episodes 4, 5, and 6. And then, now the difference between, George Lucas spent money. Each one of these, the budgets on each one of these was $100 million, roughly a little bit over 13, which at the time was nothing now compared to what they're spending on Iron Man 7 or what have you. But yeah, and but what they do have in common with the Pirates is, what a disappointment. And then
Yes.
the Pirates, when they do spend money, they don't spend it wisely. We should probably, we might want to distance ourselves from the Pirates when we do these, So
Yeah.
But yeah, these the Force was not with George Lucas on these 3 films.
No.
I went back and watched them when as I told you, the first time I watched them, I was so disappointed, and I thought part of that was my fault because my expectations were so high. Like nothing was going to, and that's what a lot of the reviews at the time said. Look, nothing's going to meet the expectations of this fan base. And that's true. But then I watched them again, and it wasn't just my expectations. That these were not good films. They were boring. And, again, what I said in our first episode, I watched it. I sit down in the theater, I'm excited, and the scroll comes up, and it's about, tax and embargoes and Senate meetings. And I'm like, I just, and I think the biggest takeaway from watching them again is I realized that Star Wars are for kids. Freddie Prinze has a great rant out there on TikTok or YouTube. You can find it somewhere about just ranting how, and that's what happens. Every new trilogy and every new movie is for a new group of kids. The difference between episodes 4, 5, and 6, episodes 4, 5, and 6 were for 13 to 16-year-olds, perhaps. And I was 13 when it came out. These were for 6 years old. This was all about selling toys and merchandise, lunch boxes and Jar Jar Binks plushies and telling the story wasn't the top agenda. It was selling stuff was the top agenda.
Well, it's just interesting because, like, Star Wars, when it came out, like, it was lightning in a bottle. Like, when Star Wars was made, no one was thinking, oh, this is going to be the biggest franchise in American movie history. Like, that was never a thing. Like, it kind of just caught on.
Oh, yeah.
And they kind of went with it. This time, you have all those expectations. But, I don't know. It was just disappointing because, like, I see what they were trying to do. Like, the idea, like, you talked about the politics and the taxes and all that stuff. But the thing is, like, it could have worked. Like, the idea of Palpatine taking over and destroying the Jedi through political intrigue and undermining the council and, like, doing sneaky things behind, that could have been so interesting.
It could have been great. You're right. It could have been really compelling.
It's so boring. Things just happen because the script says it has to happen. Like, there's no depth, there's no clever writing. And so what you get is, like, a bunch of just really boring scenes with no actual
predictable, right? No, right. I mean, it's like, they're trying to perpetuate this thing that people can't tell that, the Dark Emperor and Palpatine are the same guy. It's like the very wooden performances. If I hear my young apprentice, my young Padawan, we get it. He's younger than you. That goes from Liam Neeson to Obi-Wan Kenobi character, and then from the Obi-Wan character to Anakin. It's like, one more guy. Whatever, he's young and he's the youngest guy in the council. Blah blah blah. But stop talking condescending. But to me, the greatest crime of these movies is that they destroyed, to me anyway, the greatest movie villain of all time. In episodes 4, 5, and 6, Darth Vader is the bad man, right? He exudes menace and power, and then go back and tell his origin story, and he's a whiny little bitch. he just pouts and snarls, and I have so much rage, I have so much anger. Oh no, what have I done? It was just, and I don't think the acting was necessarily Hayden Christensen and Natalie Portman's fault. I saw a behind the scenes thing, and George Lucas was directing them that way. But man, it was awful, right? And we know how good Natalie Portman is. I've seen Hayden Christensen in a few other things where he's pretty good.
I've only seen him in Jumper, where he's terrible. So
that was better. He made a movie with Kevin Kline. It's something about a house. I don't know if it was really good. And he made a movie where he played the guy that had fabricated his stories for, I don't think it was the Washington Post, but it was a magazine in Washington, and it's true, based on a true story. He was really, really good at it. So I don't want to blame it on him, but man, 6-year-old kid's a 6-year-old kid. He can't do much.
It is the writing, and so for me, like the two biggest terms. So the first, and we'll kind of segue, I guess, into the first one. We'll talk about chronologically, but like the first problem is that the movies are so boring. The movies are criminally boring for a space action adventure series. The first one especially, but the second thing is that like the first two movies don't do anything to help progress the story, because the entire purpose of this trilogy, right, is to establish Darth Vader. It is supposed to create Darth Vader, but there's nothing in the first two movies except maybe the killing of the Tusken Raiders that sets Anakin on his path to the dark side. It's the first two movies are useless.
And all he does in those movies, in the second one in particular, I know, like I said, we're going to do it chronologically, but the second one, Padme, I'm angry, but I must listen to my master. And then there was his conflict was just completely resolved. Every day, like I said, and did nothing to get him to this path of again. The greatest movie villain of all time.
Then it also undercuts episode 3's attempts to to put him toward the dark side, because at the end of the episode, we'll get there, but by the time the betrayal in episode 3 happens, there's no good reason that Anakin should be listening to this crazy man.
Right. No, it's funny that you've got this physically disformed evil guy. He's not making a compelling case for why you should join the dark side. No. It's look, man, this is awful. It's an awful road. And he's like, no, what have I done? I can't go. Okay, I'll head down to the temple now and kill all the children. It was just, there was no struggle. It was just okay, sure, why not?
Yeah. I guess you might help me say it, but yeah. All right, so let's start at the very beginning. The very first one, it came out, 1998?
1999.
1999. I was 1 year old when this came out, and that is The Phantom Menace.
I was 35 years old.
Wow.
Right, yeah.
The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, it had a budget of $102.7 million, and it made $924.3 million. And then they re-released it in 3D, and that put it over $1 billion. It was
$1 billion in 1999 is crazy.
Right. It had all sorts of records, like highest opening day, highest second day, highest third week. It was just killing it at the box office.
But so episode 1 starts with the title crawl, and it starts talking about whoever the heck the Trade Federation is, taxes, the Galactic Senate. And I don't know, you're right. It's such a stark contrast from the original opening title crawl.
Yeah, I was already bored. I was like, I think I'll go get popcorn. I'm 37 seconds into the movie, and I'm like, this looks really dull.
Yeah, and the beginning kind of just shows the politics immediately falling apart, because every person who makes decisions in the Trade Federation acts in the dumbest way possible. And I think that's kind of a constant theme through all 3 movies, where everyone just makes terrible decisions that no one else would ever make.
Right.
Like,
I agree, and that applies to the people with the Force. The people with the Force cannot sense that they're with this terrible villain. They're protecting this terrible villain. They're taking his side. It's like, don't any of you, like Yoda, you don't sense a little bit there from the senator? That maybe and he's got that dark side. He's bought into the dark side.
Like, the movie starts, and the movie's supposed to be like this exciting escape action scene, but like it's also supposed to establish the politics. But the Trade Federation wants to invade Naboo, right? Like, they want to take it over. They want there to be no proof. They want to, but their course of action is to kill 2 Jedi,
right?
Bring all this attention onto them and their blockade.
And we as viewers don't care about Liam Neeson yet, right? We have no attachment to it. If he dies in the first 10 minutes of the movie, wow, they killed him off early. But that's my only, it's not like losing Han Solo at the end of The Empire Strikes Back. He didn't even die, but we were so worried that he was, And this was like, okay, bye, Liam Neeson. We've got a particular set of skills. We'll apply them somewhere else, So, you're right. It's just, and the other thing too, for me, is that Star Wars has always pretty much been about the humans.
Yeah.
And these really went heavy on the creatures. And while, the makeup and stuff is good and the special effects is good, it's still, a bunch of jolly fish-looking things or bug-looking. It just took me out of the movie, quite a few times. You have Samuel L. Jackson, and you've muted his performance. They just did so many things wrong. And if you're going to have Samuel L. Jackson in a Star Wars movie, let him choose some scenery,
I agree. It's more just like the viceroys or whatever. They don't look human. I think the effects look terrible, so it really takes you out of the movie. And then they're just idiots.
Yeah.
I don't want to harp on what every other movie reviewer has ever said. I want this to be a little different, but the whole filling the room with poison gas
right.
And then 5 seconds later saying they must be dead now, go finish them off or whatever. You couldn't have thought of it really just felt like with everything in the first movie that it didn't get past one proofread. The script did not get edited. It was whatever the first thing they all put out was the script. And it's really obvious.
Yeah. It's George Lucas is not a good director, right? He's a great producer, a great assembler of talent, a great with special effects. But this was the first movie he had directed since the Star Wars in '77. So I think he knew that he offered the director job to Steven Spielberg, Ron Howard, and Robert Zemeckis. And they all turned it down. And Ron Howard said they basically all thought it was just too daunting. Who wants to take on, right? Because you're in a real tough spot. So Lucas directed it, wrote and directed it. Now I think he's a pretty good writer, but universally, everybody thinks The Empire Strikes Back is the best of all the Star Wars movies. And that was written by Lawrence Kasdan, who is a sneaky great, I don't know if you're familiar with him. He's a fantastic writer in the 80s. He wrote Indiana Jones. He wrote, He Big Chill. He was cranking out.
He understands what the script needs to be in a nice action movie with likable characters.
Yeah. He sort of set the template with Indiana Jones. Something happens every 8 minutes. And it's something exciting. And Indy does something great, and that was not applied to in this.
No, because these movies are so boring, and The Phantom Menace might be the worst offender. You get this opening scene where there's some action. It's not great action because it's just Jedi slicing through robots, and again, I'm not going to harp. That's already been done to death, but it's not interesting. And then nothing happens. It goes from that opening action scene, and the next bit of action is the pod race. And that's 40 minutes.
That's a long stretch.
I had forgotten because I haven't seen this movie in a while because I don't go out of my way to watch it.
No, it's been 20 years for me.
I couldn't believe how little happened in this movie. I watched this 2 days ago, and I can barely tell you what happens between
I'm already
the
struggling. Yeah, it's in and out because
between these two
nothing
things.
impacts. There's no, if we had to pick, gee, what was the best scene of that movie? I can't even remember. I can't
There's
remember.
one answer. But we'll get to that. There's one answer for best scene, but like even then, it's like it's not even the best lightsaber fight. But yeah, it's just like I think after that they like get down to the planet, and they spend like 25 minutes with Jar Jar Binks going to the capital city of the Gungas, and then getting it in Jar Jar Binks. We all know Jar Jar Binks sucks. You know it sucks. I know he sucks. No one likes him.
George Lucas knows he sucks. If you watch, now the secret title of the second movie was called The Adventures of Jar Jar Binks, and that was just a joke, a George Lucas joke, like haha, everybody hates him so much. Yeah. But he probably has half as much screen time in the second one, and he's barely in the third one. Like Lucas came to terms with the fact that nobody, not children, nobody like Jar Jar.
That's probably the biggest drag of the opening part, or if like why there's something happening, because they're always cutting back to Jar Jar Binks doing some stupid thing for the kids, like you said, but nothing's happening.
Right. Yeah. He's like a Jerry Lewis, shtick thing going on. That's like, please no, it's not working for anybody. It's distracting from the movie. And I'm a guy who loves dialogue. I don't need action. I love movies where, we talked about The Holdovers. There's no action in The Holdovers, but the conversation is great. It's compelling. Mm-hmm. It's intriguing. You want more. So I'm all for it. You can give, it's just like you said, this movie could have been fine if it was about political intrigue. If there was any intrigue, to the political part, but there was none. It was this stilted. I mean, he just didn't put that much effort into the screenplay. He really, these were just all stiff wooden, cardboard, and all of them. The mother, little Anakin, the fake queen. There was nobody that had any real charisma. Bad jokes from Qui-Gon. Is that Qui-Gon and
Qui-Gon?
Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan. I mean, it was just they were making like Arnold Schwarzenegger Commando. I told you I would kill you last. I lied. Yeah. It's like just terrible. Catchphrase junk.
There's no the first movie specifically. If you asked anyone what their favorite part of the first movie was, or Empire, no one says the action scenes usually.
Right.
Everyone talks about a character, characters talking, because Han and Luke and Leia are all great characters. They get along, that's natural humor. It's well written. There is not a single good character in this movie. No, and especially when you
my favorite scene in this movie is the end credits. I mean, I'm like, oh, thank God it's over.
Right? Well, because people like Obi-Wan, but Obi-Wan is a plank of wood. Qui-Gon has no personality. You're taking some really good actors, like Liam Neeson, Ewan McGregor. Right. You're taking Natalie Portman, Samuel Jackson. You were taking a really good cast of people and making them all the same.
Yeah, you've neutered and taken the personality away from every one of them. And like you said, these are talented. Natalie Portman's got an Oscar. I think Ewan McGregor and Liam Neeson have definitely been nominated. Samuel Jackson, I think, has been nominated. You had great talent. There was no excuse for the performances to be this bad. And I don't hold it against the actors. I really don't. I put this on George Lucas, and Lucas is up there on my Mount Rushmore. I love those original movies. And some of it, Indiana Jones, American Graffiti. He's a heavy hitter, but man, I mean, like I said, this to me just seemed to be one big commercial for 6-year-old children. You buy these toys, look at this funny face, look at it, and it's part of the problem with filmmaking today. There are multiple agendas before story. And I am a story-driven person, so
yeah, same here.
And we didn't get much of a story.
Yeah, and and it's disappointing because even in this movie, which is bad, I don't like it. There are cool elements, there are parts of me when I was watching this trilogy and watching this movie, I'm like, all right, this is cool. Like the lightsabers are cool. Like the pod racing, the idea of pod racing is actually like so cool.
Right.
And like I actually kind of enjoy the scene because like it almost like leans into like almost like a NASCAR. Like they have like almost like the NASCAR style announcer, and honestly, that kind of laugh out of me.
People say that these were referencing, he was paying homage sort of to Ben-Hur, the original Ben-Hur. There's a lot of religious overtone, virgin birth, chosen one, that sort of thing. So
yeah, no, there is a lot of religious thing, but like like the pod racing scene. While like I can sit down and enjoy that, it did not save like the fact that nothing had happened for the first hour of that movie.
Yeah, and it wasn't that good of a scene, right? It was good. No, it was fun. It was enjoyable, but it did not. If the movie was started there, it would be better off, right?
Like the worst part is like when the best scenes are what stop the plot and just do something completely different. And then I don't know how you feel about this because shortly after this, we get to what most people feel like is the worst part of this entire trilogy is the midichlorians.
Yeah.
How do you feel about the midichlorians, Doug? Tell me as a kid who grew up wanting to be a Jedi, learning that you had to have a midichlorian count to become one.
Yeah, it was just another what? Right? Like, before the force is all around us, it's in us, it's a part of us, and some people can tap into it, better than others. Now it's like you need, I don't know, a certain amount of vitamin C. It's like it's like your A1C count now, 6.7. That's not very, it's a little hot, Doug. So yeah, that was disappointing. We find out he had more than Yoda.
Yeah.
Right. And we have more than Yoda. He had more than Yoda, and they're like, no, we're not going to train him. What? Right. It's another, that's a head scratcher. You found the person that has the most midichlorians of all time. No, we don't think you should train him. And could I have
it's too dangerous.
Explanation why right. Because he's too dangerous.
As if it wouldn't be less dangerous to train him in your way so he wouldn't become that and you can antagonize him. I don't know. But
we've got the most dangerous Jedi of all time. We're just going to leave him to the dark side. We're just going to ignore him. Hope
It also just kind of ruins characters like Yoda. Like Yoda was worked because he was the super powerful guy with the Force, but he doesn't look like that. And midichlorian count, okay, so he's actually a super powered. He just doesn't look super powered. It kind of ruins the aura of what made Yoda even remotely cool in the first place.
Right, Yoda. Right, he lifted the ship out of the water, showing Luke Skywalker that it's not about your size, it's not about your strength, it's your will. But now it's because he's got high cholesterol or something.
I have heard stories from my older cousins or older friends who said they were ruined because they it's kind of like that dream you might get the letter from Hogwarts.
Yeah, right.
Because there's no, and it's you might have the Jedi power, but no, it's just midichlorians and no one knows what that is.
Yeah, it was. Yeah, when you said the worst thing, I was thinking that you were going to talk about the sexual predator, pedophile grooming of young Anakin by the Queen there. But
oh man, that poor kid's never worked.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I mean, it doesn't. That was the worst. I almost skipped through that scene, the "Are you an angel" scene. I almost skipped through it because
are you an angel? Yeah,
I mean, that doesn't really come full circle to the second movie, but yeah, Natalie Portman's character dating someone who's she's what, has to be 10 or 11 years older.
I mean, I don't think he's 8 years old. He looks like he's 6 years old, right? He's just a child, and I mean, she's at least 16. So that would be a 10-year age gap. That's. I mean, even again, 10 years later, when he's 16 and she's 24, years have gone to jail.
Yeah,
for that age gap.
It's space jail. It's kind of I guess Romeo and Juliet laws don't exist in space, or she'd be carrying it around in one of her wallets, it's a Michael Bay movie. But yeah, no, they it's just one of those things I just didn't think about.
Yeah,
or didn't think it through.
Right. It's wow. What were you? You couldn't have. right, just made them a little, 4 years apart or something, and it probably would have been better if you had a 10 or 12-year-old kid playing the part anyway. Just discover him. It's then things are a little more believable. He's probably able to deliver lines more effectively, that sort of thing. But yeah, we wanted to have this very May December romance.
It was the real reason Anakin turned to the dark side.
Yeah,
traumatized.
Yeah, exactly. The PTSD from being groomed from the time.
Natalie Portman is the reason to saw it. Yeah. I could call her Amidala, but she's Natalie Portman because she doesn't have a character.
Right. I don't want to Padme her. She's too good. She's been too good for so long. And prior to those movies too, she had done Leon and Beautiful Girls. I mean, she had done some really. She was Heat. I mean, she had done some really good work. And then you see her like, Annie, it's been so long since I've seen you. It's like, what? Right? Like, what happened to her personality? What did you do with it?
It's the magic of George. And so we get through the midichlorians, we get through this, and finally we reach like the last 30 minutes of the movie where stuff actually happens. And the best part of the movie, of course, and it's not a hot take, but like Duel of the Fates is like the only time that I could like sit there and like really enjoy what I was watching. The music is so good.
John Williams.
And like, maybe it's a little kid in me, I don't know, but I don't even think Darth Maul is cool. I just thought it was the coolest thing to have a person with like the double wielding lightsaber.
Yeah.
Like that's really cool.
I remember seeing the toy thinking, oh, that's cool. That's a good idea. That they really have come up with something there. And it was, do you know who actually shot scenes as Darth Maul?
Nope.
Benicio del Toro. But he dropped out of the movie when they cut his lines. So and maybe because you read the script.
Darth Maul has like one line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it wasn't his voice. He was like a stuntman and he had a real squeaky voice. So they dubbed in somebody else's voice anyway. According to the internet. Don't worry.
Okay. Yeah, I did not know that. But yeah, like that's like it's not like the best lightsaber fight in the series by any means, but it's the best lightsaber fight of the prequels.
Yeah. And it is the best, like I said, action scene in this movie, which, we thought going in was an action movie. And it's not what we got, but that's what we were expecting, right? Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, it was like I said, it was pretty cool, pretty visual. Like I said, John Williams, man, he's up there. He probably is the best film composer of all time, just based on having Jaws, Indiana Jones, and Star Wars. Those iconic themes. That
he's really he's good at what he does.
Yeah.
And whenever that, because like there's like those like three subplots that are going on, like taking the throne room, the battle in Naboo, and Duel of the Fates. And like every time it cuts back to the Duel of the Fates, it's the best part. Like you're like finally, because you don't care about whatever the heck they're called, fighting the droids in an open field.
Right. Boring. Yeah.
Boring. Except it was funny. I just realized that like Qui-Gon is like a maniac because he just straight up tricks the king into being the distraction. Like those guys are meant to like all die or be captured.
Right. They're cannon fodder, right?
Yeah, they're the cannon fodder. Like they're the Irish in Braveheart. Like, like they were, and I was like, this is like the one bit of like political intrigue that was good. Tricking an entire group of people to become meat shields.
Right. You guys go. Yeah. You take you guys storm Normandy, right? And we'll stay back here on our aircraft carriers. But yeah, it was. I mean, it did help pick up the movie a little bit. By then, it was too late, man. I was out. Right. I was just out.
Yeah. It is not enough. Like it does not pick it up enough. And like the fact that it's cutting back to like Anakin, 6-year-old Anakin driving in a spaceship, it's just like, this is just not good enough. Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
And you still don't care that Qui-Gon guys. Like you do not care.
Never felt an ounce of like if that had that been Han Solo or Luke Skywalker or Princess Leia in the first, Chewie, I'd have been devastated, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, it's like no way. And this one's like, oh, he died. Okay, That's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Who's next? Right. Next up. Next man up, as Mike Tomlin says. So.
Yeah, it is the standard was not the standard. But that's pretty. Yeah, so the first one, what would you rate the first one out of 10?
Ooh, out of 10, it's a 3. It's not a good movie.
Yeah.
I mean, and beyond not being good, like it's boring.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like, there's lots of bad movies out there, but they're still fun. They're still good action. You know, I mean, to me, the most, all except Fast and Furious 5 are pretty bad, but they're wildly entertaining. This was just, it was boring. You know, it didn't even make me angry that it was bad. It made me apathetic. Like, you know, like I said, I saw this the day that it came out. I don't think I felt that way about the next one, right? I'm like, I'll get to it, which just seems, would have, blown my mind as a 13-year-old, 15-year-old that I would not be there standing in line on day one. So yeah, I mean, we got through it. I even tried to kind of like, okay, they had to do some establishing, plot points and stuff to move us to the next one, and the next one will be better. Well,
this was I guess I'll give it a 3 out of 10 too. It was, and I'm tempted to say 2 because there's just like everything about this movie is wrong for like 90% of it. I'll go 2 out of 10.
Yeah, I'm not going to argue. I just didn't want to sound too harsh.
Because it's not the worst. Man. I don't know about you. For me, it's not the worst of the trilogy for me.
Whew. I kind of, they just all meld into one bad thing for me. I'd have to really think about it to separate. I do want to mention one, Keira Knightley played one of the court of Padme. And, I guess it was really hot when they're filming and her costume was really uncomfortable. And she said she cried every day. And I thought, Keira Knightley, I'm with you.
Keira Knightley is all of us, but watching the future.
Yeah, exactly. You are. Yeah.
It's another talented person on this project. It's crazy.
Sofia Coppola was in this, and Francis Ford Coppola and George Lucas are great friends, and she considers George Lucas an uncle. And she was getting ready to direct Virgin Suicides, terrific movie, and she said, "Hey, can I follow you around on the set while you're doing Star Wars? I want to see you at work." And he said, "Sure," and he cast her as in the court, and again, she was one of the the red cloak over and all that sort of stuff. And she said, it was as good as vantage point as any. But yeah, I don't think she took a lot of lessons from it because she's been a very good director. So.
Yeah. But to say, you have to stay away from it. She was observing George so she could cheat, but not to do.
Yeah. Well, and if you saw her, she's not much of an actress. She was in Godfather 3, and it looks like she did take some pointers. Yeah, she did take some pointers.
It's about as good as her next movie, which is Attack of the Clones.
Yeah.
And this is my least favorite of the 3.
It's also bad.
It is. It's not as boring as
it was
episode
the least
1.
Yeah, it was the least successful of the 3. Its budget was 115 million, and it did 653 million. So
only
300 million. Yeah, but 300 million less than the first one. That's not how it goes. Sequels usually the big successful stuff. Do better than the first. But not.
People kind of knew like what was going on after the first one. Like reviews were bad. People like excitement for Star Wars kind of dipped, and then it's kind of more of the same. Episode 2, there's still a lot of confusing dialogue about politics that aren't explained or aren't in any detail. Just more of that. The really only big change is they just got rid of Jar Jar Binks.
Yeah, they limited Jar Jar Binks. They brought in not Boba Fett. What's
Jango Fett?
Yeah, Jango Fett. Brought him in. I think Jimmy Smits shows up in this one.
Mm-hmm.
Also, again, another really good actor that you just wasted. Just had nothing to offer.
I think the most disappointing thing about this movie specifically is that the introduction of the clones could have been so cool.
Yeah.
The clones are cool. Like, it is a cool idea to have, like, a clone army that is secretly being made to overthrow the Jedi. Like, but then Obi-Wan just turns into the biggest idiot in this movie. Like, like Ewan McGregor's a really good actor.
Yeah.
Like he is. Like he in Trainspotting, A+, like fantastic. But in the first movie, he's a plank of wood. In the third movie, he's just a terrible one-line dispenser.
Yeah.
And in this movie, he's supposed to be the main character, but also the biggest moron in the world.
Yeah. No, that's what I'm saying. All through these movies, I kept thinking, wait a minute, you have the Force. You're supposed to be able to sense things. And there's a guy who's got, his hand in your pocket taking your wallet, and you have no idea, right? Like the whole movie, they just make one dumb decision after another. I mean, like I said, everybody, humans, politicians, people with the Force, and it sort of just, I don't know, negates the way we felt about it prior. The Force, this mystical power, influence, and it's like, you're just, you're doing the bidding of Senator Palpatine, who his voice is getting gravelier and gravelier. Like, you're not picking up on this.
Yeah, and also like one thing, like actually Palpatine's like the one actor who I think is really good.
Yeah. Oh yeah. I mean, he's the one guy. He was not wooden. He exuded menace. He exuded evil. Like it's like, this guy's bad. Right?
Yeah, he did his job, and it almost seemed like he was like the only one who was having fun on set.
Right. No, I mean, they must. I mean, I just feel like every time someone showed a little personality, George Lucas would say, "Okay, that was good, but let's try it again. This time, a little more reserved." Right?
Yeah.
I mean, everybody was so monotone. Like I said, it just kills me watching Samuel L. Jackson in this movie. Master Yoda, I think we need to talk about Anakin. Oh, we will. We must. Yeah. You're killing me.
Well, so what this movie really started, I noticed this in 2 and 3 especially, is that they will just. It's like when you watch like a war movie or an action movie, you need context, right?
Right.
Like context makes things better. Like in Indiana Jones, they always explain the context or whatever, like the villain or the importance of the artifact and why Indiana Jones is doing what he's doing. Right. In these movies, there are political declarations made, deals made, and just battles that are set pieces but don't actually mean anything. They're just there for there to be something to do. It's like the entire like assassination plot doesn't mean anything. It's just it's just supposed to be something to get characters through the movie. Or like the Battle of Geonosis is fun. But what's the point? Why are they fighting here? What is the goal? There is no explanation, and it's a real problem in number 3. But it starts here.
No, right. It's like you said. It absolutely lacks context. My buddies and I used to have a running joke. And we'd say, why did they do that? And the answer is, well, because it was in the script. Otherwise, it makes no sense, right? Someone wrote that, put that in there. It has nothing to do with the movie. You could take it out from the movie, and the results. The outcome of the movie is still the same. He just, I mean, again, it comes down to, it seems like George Lucas was just phoning it in. As far as the script was concerned, he envisioned, I mean, again, it was sort of like, it's like a Fast and Furious movie. We're just going to have a scene, another big scene, another big scene. They don't have to make sense. They don't have to fit in. They just will move our actors from one place to another. And then, I mean, this movie's again bad because it has the blossoming romance was just so terrible.
Well, so the reason that this is the worst for me is just because this is the dialogue at its worst. Like the dialogue does not get worse in this movie, and so instead of talking about the same shreds about I hate Sam, because we all know it's bad, we all know it sucks, and the romance is bad. It's not believable. It's illegal.
Yeah, right.
All of it out is bad, but a lot of defenses for these movies is that the dialogue was intentional. It was supposed to be like a space opera. It's supposed to be stilted and wooden, and this is all intentional. Do you buy this? Do you buy that? I gotta know.
I don't think it was intentional.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe he tried to make it a little more chaste because he got probably some feedback, from the first movie. So in lieu of having a little more oomph to the dialogue, he'd like, no, let's keep this, chaste and pure and not make her look like she's, on To Catch a Predator.
Make Hayden Christensen look older than her.
Yeah. Listen to this list: Jonathan Brandis, Chris Klein, Devon Sawa, Charlie Hunnam, Topher Grace, Eric Kristen Olsen, Josh Jackson, James Vanderbeek, Ryan Phillippe, Colin Hanks, and Paul Walker all auditioned for that role. Now, I would tell you that every single one of them could do better, but I don't think it's Hayden Christensen's fault.
I would push back against Topher Grace. I'm going to be completely honest.
It's like he I don't think he can exude like, I'm a powerful Jedi. He can be the wisecracking. He could be Jar Jar Binks, but I don't think he could be. Can't see him lifting something with it.
Yeah, and we kind of mentioned it, but it's not Hayden Christensen's fault.
Right.
The writing is beyond reproach, and when I hear those defenses, like, it was supposed to be bad, it was supposed to be stilted. It kind of reminds me, like, I don't know if you ever watched Sherlock or not, like the BBC show.
Oh, I'm dying to, but I have not.
But essentially, people were so convinced that there was a secret episode, like 5 of the season 4, because they refused to believe it would be that bad. It could be that bad. That's kind of what I get here with like these people convinced that the dialogue was supposed to be bad all this time,
Right. And this is at the sort of the dawn of the internet, right? And people were jumping on message boards and things like that. They didn't have any of these other options. And we're like the diehards were just defending it. Mm-hmm. They knew it was bad, but they just couldn't. They're like, no, I've been crying for these movies for 15 years and they're going to be good. I don't care what anybody says, even though I know that they're not good. And I think that was just excuse making for really just bad filmmaking.
Yeah, and when everyone talks about the dialogue, they always focus on the romance because it's like the most noble. Honestly, it affects the Jedi the most, and it affects guys like Obi-Wan and Mace Windu and Yoda the most because they discover the plan of what Palpatine is doing. Like Obi-Wan literally discovers it, tells the Jedi Council about it, and then nothing's done about it.
Right.
They're like, oh, they just got a clone army that's mysterious. Let's use them. And they I don't know what they were thinking, giving them the entire plot and just having them ignore it and like excusing it with, oh, they're clouded by the dark side of the Force. Like, no, that doesn't work.
No, that's such a feeble excuse. And and while we're not seeing that, we're watching, every day since I've seen you, I've been aching. And, but let's be together. We can't. We'll have to be in secret. Like, how could you pull that secret off? How would Obi-Wan not be able to pick up that you've gotten off and gotten married? I mean, it's just, there's so many. I'm a big believer. We must suspend disbelief. Mm-hmm. Nope, they pushed me to my limit with this one. There's too many unbelievable things happen. And that's stunning to say that, in a galaxy far, far away a long time ago that I don't, that I'm like, nope, that couldn't happen. I mean, they've got to play within their rules.
Well, for something like Star Wars, like obviously, they set up rules in the universe. Right. And so I believe that aliens and humans are just like coexisting, that some have the Jedi, like they have their own languages, like that they have these weird things called lightsabers. I can't even believe the Force. Like those are all established rules. Cool.
Right.
Incredible. It's great. But like when you just start breaking the rules and say like the Force doesn't actually mean what you said it meant, and
no,
that's subjective, and so like the Jedi Council can't sense anything. Like it's not about like believability, it's that you can't follow your own rules.
Right. And these Jedis were, in the first 3 movies were established as just, superheroes, right? I mean, not just, and then we get to these first 3 movies as far as, numbers 1, 2, and 3, and they're kind of bumbling, Forrest Gumping their way through stuff, dumb luck getting them through. They're not using the Force to give themselves an advantage. They're just, and if anything, they keep telling us it's the Force is what's causing them the problems. The dark force is clouding their mind. Well, why can't they recognize that?
I
mean,
don't know. Like,
yeah, it just.
And you know what? I can even suspend my disbelief that they don't know the Chancellor. Like, I can just suspend my disbelief that they haven't seen the holograms of Darth Sidious, so like we can see it. Like, I could. That's honestly doesn't even bother me. But like, you're talking about like the smartest, most powerful people in the world, and not only are they idiots, they're also just like maniacs themselves. Like,
yeah, that's
the entire Jedi code. The entire Jedi code has established like you can't have any feelings,
right,
or love or stuff like that. Like, this is okay. So what am I rooting for here? Like, these are supposed to be the good guys, and like they aren't allowed to do anything.
Right. They're supposed to be, you know, some monastic monks to a point.
Well, they're supposed to be robots. Like, they're almost like supposed to be what George Lucas wants all his characters to be, which is great. Like, if they had like, it almost would have been really cool if like all the Jedi were like these stuck like wooden planks.
And like, then you would have bought the wooden performance was intentional.
Yeah, and like all the other characters are full of life and energy. Like, that actually would have been cool. Like, it would have shown like why the Jedi fell apart, because they were kind of sniffing their own farts up until the end. Like, they were, but they don't do that.
No, they're these, like I said, they're impulsive, they're reckless. You know, all this discipline they're supposed to have, this, you know, master your emotions, all that. Nope, none of them. None, except when they are speaking, right? And then they are, you know, completely without personality.
Like a good example, I don't know if you've ever played like the Fallout games that ever.
No, I don't know.
Okay, but like there's like this group called like the Brotherhood of Steel, and like they're like not really good guys, but like they're kind of good guys. They're basically like these isolationist tech hoarders, and like they have a reasonable set of beliefs, but because they won't change their ways, they die out essentially. Like, they get destroyed for the most part. That would have been something really cool to explore with the Jedi. Like, you know, like these love and fear are the ways of the dark side, and like that, all that like culminates in them getting destroyed because they can't change, they can't adapt. Right. But instead they're seen as like the good guys who were just betrayed at the wrong time.
Right. No, and that's, like I said, with the romance between you know, Anakin and Padme could have been a great way to push that forward. Like, listen, you cannot be in love because it compromises, you know, your ability as a Jedi, right? Yeah. You know, I mean, they could have again, sort of like how they could have made the politics interesting in the first one. They could have made this romance intriguing, and you know, but for us as viewers, there was no reason to think that they shouldn't get together. Right? It's like, that's fine.
But it's also like, I like what it's not even consistent in like the first movies, because like Obi-Wan has lots of emotions about people.
Yeah.
Like, you can like really see the pain in his eyes and the longing for his friend back when he talks about Darth Vader, like, you know, like, or like talking about Luke. But like, you can see there's emotion there. There was friendship, there's camaraderie, but this like new Jedi thing says, no, you can't have any of that. That leads to the dark side. It's like, I don't know what they're going for.
Yeah. No, as I said, they're just all over the place. They, you know, so often you hear about movies being written on the fly and you know, as they're filming, and that's what you kind of felt here. And so then there's not that narrative flow that's so necessary for this kind of movie with so much story to tell. And so, you know, and you need, you know, so much explanation, and they just, so, you know, becomes inconsistent. Like, in this scene in a nutshell is fine, but it contradicts what you've been telling us for 5 movies.
Yeah. And also, like, you know, again, the point is to tell the story of how Darth Vader became Darth Vader, and they didn't do it in the first one, because that was just introducing Anakin and getting him into the Jedi Temple. You know, fine. I get that. But then this movie almost like kind of seemed like 2 hours in, they're like, oh, we never actually touched on this, which is kind of the point. So they throw in the, let's go find Anakin's mom, go murder all the Tusken
He's
Raiders.
Having nightmares, which shows that, you know, it gives him to fear, and then he has to, you know, he finds his mom at the last second, you know, moments before her death, and then he has to show his anger. You know, look, he gives into these emotions, and that's why he's going to be Darth Vader, you know.
But the point of these movies was like not even like thought about. It was an afterthought.
Yeah.
And instead, all we get is a bunch of boring romance scenes. And I mean, I'll be honest, like, as a little kid, and even still today, when I was watching, I'm like, I can't even lie. The Battle of Geonosis, like where they're in arena and you have like the 50 or so Jedi like fighting, that was awesome. Like, I'm sorry,
That was
like,
pretty cool scene. Right. I mean,
because you never see that many Jedi like in one place.
right.
And so just seeing that, even as a little kid, and even now, I'm like, you know what? This is where like Star Wars like can shine in that kind of form. That was about the best part of the movie.
So now did you watch them in order? Like,
Yes.
So you watched 1, 2, and 3 first before you watched 4, 5, and 6.
Oh, as like growing up?
Yeah.
Oh no. I watched 4, 5, 6 first.
Okay, so yeah, because I mean, I wonder, like again, I consumed them. Obviously, 4, 5, and 6 were all that was available. But now, if someone's born in 2000 or 99, 98, there's no reason they couldn't start with the first one. And I wonder if it would change the viewing, experience, or maybe you would just give up after the first one and say, I'm not watching 8 more of these.
Yeah.
Where's SpongeBob, right?
No, and
you did see E.T. in the council, right? In the Senate council.
I did not.
Yeah, he's Spielberg and Lucas do that a lot. They drop off. They do put like Easter eggs in there for each other. And E.T. is one in one. They pan through the crowd there, and he's in one of them.
Oh, wait, they have 3 ETs there. I see what. Okay, yeah. No, that is cool. I mean, it's just, but like, if
that's the best part of all 3 movies for me.
If the movies were like that, with like all these like endearing moments of Easter eggs and like almost like being self-referential, that would have been great. But
right,
there's not enough of it, and all the good stuff is like an afterthought. And then again, the Battle of Geonosis, you're like, all right, why is there suddenly like this massive battle here? It's kind of cool to see all the new clone technology. Like, I'm like, it is like, when you have like the Star Wars universe, you have that creativity to create a bunch of new weapons, new ships, new enemy. Like, that was cool. But again, there's no weight, there's no meaning to it. It's just it's just a set piece so they can get the Count Dooku.
You don't feel the loss of any. You're like,
no.
Okay, so there's a bunch of people that we have no attachment to, or
like you don't feel anything about the Jedi dying in the arena because you've never met them before, and then you have a bunch of faceless clones who can be made in the lab go off against a bunch of droids who can be made in the lab, and so when one of them gets shot, who cares?
Who cares? Yeah,
there is no emotional weight to any of the battle scenes. And then I'm going to be honest, the fight between Count Dooku and the Anakin Obi-Wan is so forgettable.
Yeah. And this is another thing that bothers me. I mean, again, made for 6-year-old. Count Dookie, General Grievous comes up. I mean, Could you just put a little effort into these names? Count Dooku? I mean, General Grievous is the one that really gets me, but I mean, like, you're not even trying, George. Not even trying.
Which is crazy because, like, if you go on, like, I think it's Wikipedia, you can find like names of like hundreds of different alien species, right, but not Count Dooku is what one they settled on.
You came up with Count Dooku. I mean, it's just
and talk about a waste of talent.
Yeah, Christopher Lee.
Christopher Lee is better just because his voice has so much personality,
right,
by itself.
Yeah, he's got a little James Earl Jones action going there, right? He just he commands authority and believability, and you're like, all right, this guy, he might have something going on here.
But he barely has any screen time,
but kind of shows up at the end. Yeah,
like what does Count Dooku want? What does Count Dooku care about? Like, what is he doesn't develop? He doesn't have a personality. It's just so disappointing because
you can see like this. Can you see a guy in acting class trying to? All right, I have to find the motivation of Count Dooku. Sorry, there are no clues. There's nothing there.
So I don't want to retread like ground, but like I hope most people have seen like the Red Letter Media review of Phantom Menace. And like they sit down and ask all those people to describe characters in these previews, like personality wise, and you can't describe how they look like. You can't do it.
No. I mean, every character is pretty much the same.
Mm-hmm.
Kind of a knucklehead, right? Kind of dull, kind of wishy-washy and confused.
Mm-hmm.
Just no real distinct personality characteristics. And I mean, again, this is supposed to be a time when the Jedi are thriving, but we don't ever really see too many. It's the Council. and that's it. I don't know. I would have liked to seen some scenes in these movies early on, just whatever. The younger ones training maybe, and some classroom situation, just some maybe a little Jedi history, something. But we got I just nothing.
Yeah. And I think that's the first frustrating part. Is like you can see a lot of really, really cool elements that could have made these movies good if like you just gave it to someone with direction.
Right.
And it's so disappointing. It's like this is the worst movie, and it is more forgettable for me than The Phantom Menace.
Yeah, I know. I agree now. Like I said,
trying to think of scenes that happen in this movie, and I saw this yesterday.
I saw it. And when you first brought it up, right, I couldn't remember that it was worse than the first one because I couldn't remember anything about it until we started talking about it. I'm like, oh yeah, this is that just awful romance between the two of them, and this has
that takes up half the movie.
Yeah,
that half the movie is Obi-Wan traipsing around like an idiot, and the other half is the terrible romance. It's such wasted potential, but fine. What would you give Attack of the Clones out of 10? We'll do them all three of them.
Yeah, I mean, like I said, I'll stick with my 3. They're pretty consistently bad. This one is. I'll give this one 2.5. It is definitely worse, and like I said, the romance is just it's just boring. Again, it's boring. I don't even want to say that they're bad as much as it's just dull, which is the worst. You know what I'm saying?
The worst you can do with Star Wars is make it boring.
Yeah, this is like making a 6-year-old watch something like Michael Clayton, right? Where they're just going to be bored because they don't understand any of it. And that's kind of how this is. It's like I don't really understand why anybody's doing what they're doing. Yeah,
but it's made for kids, but also political and romance intrigue. But this is the worst one for me. It's 1 out of 10 just because there is one enjoyable scene in this movie. And that is like the 5 minutes the Jedi are fighting in the arena.
Yeah.
All the battle droids. And
George Lucas does like putting people over a pit. He likes to have everything in a pit or a canyon.
The Coliseum thing, like I can get behind it. Like, but then they kind of ruined it with like the Mace Windu, like really cheesy killing of Jango Fett. Like, but
and then the terrible actor playing his son. Yeah, it was just awful. It was just all so bad.
Look really sad while you pick up his helmet, kid.
Yeah.
1 out of 10. This movie stinks on ice, but they do save the best for last.
Yeah. Yeah, the last one is the best one. It's still terrible.
But it's not boring.
No, it's not boring. That's true.
It has boring moments. But this movie actually has things going on pretty much throughout the entirety of it. And that's nice.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It moves a little faster. It bounced back. Its budget was $113 million. It did $868 million. So
that's crazy. That so many people saw saw the Attack of the Clones and they wanted to go back.
And went back for much more. But I at this point, like we're like, please put us out of our misery. I'll watch if you'll just wrap this up.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, like I said, it's probably better than the other two, but ultimately it disappoints me more than the other.
It's still a mess.
Yeah, it is a mess, and his journey to becoming Darth Vader is it's absurd. Really, I mean, every conversation he had, he'll disobey Obi-Wan and then say, I shouldn't have done that. And oh, Padme, I'm so angry and and then she'd talk, she'd say something, he'd be like, okay. And then, all right, Obi-Wan, whatever you want. Right. He was just back and forth. There was no kind of consistency. He wasn't, going further down the path. I mean, jumping ahead sort of to the end there where he kills Mace Windu. And, Palpatine's like, yeah, it's your, and he's like, oh, what have I done?
Yeah.
Oh, the Jedi are trying to, manipulate us. And, now and then boom, he was completely fine with it. No conflict. He just killed, and here's the biggest, like, kind of loophole thing for me that drove me crazy. How can you ask me to spy on Palpatine? He's my friend. He's my mentor. Since when? We saw none of that in the first two movies.
Well, that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like none of the things are established or given context. They're just said and almost all the cool stuff is off screen in this movie. Where like they talk. Like, there's that one line where Obi-Wan talks about how Anakin saved his skin like 10 times. I'm like,
yes, right.
Can we see that, please?
Yeah,
like,
yeah. That
sounds
saved
great.
my life. So many. Yeah, exactly. It's like they have a brother to me. Well, show that. That's what to see in movies 1 and 2. We wanted to see but the second movie, the adventures of Obi-Wan and Anakin, and let them see this great bond. But no, because
they separate them for the entire movie,
right? And every time they have a little conversation, listen, my young Padawan, he's condescending. He does not seem like he's a guy that feels like he's a brother. He feels like he's at least a father figure or a much older brother. There doesn't seem to be a real bond there. He seems to be annoyed by him all the time. You're too impulsive. You're too out, give it to your emotions, that sort of thing.
This is where like the whole lack of establishing Anakin as Darth Vader in the first two movies really comes back and bites him, because all the conversations are stupid. None of it makes any sense. Anakin has no good reason to listen to this crazy guy.
He has no good reason to want, like I said, to take this turn. He's on the council. He's a little mad that he's not called master. But, they established that you are the youngest person ever on the council. So if I'm the youngest person ever to do something, they say you have to wait a little longer for that. Like, I'm not happy, but I can understand and buy into it, right? You give them the yes master, and maybe if you didn't have to call everybody master all the time, you could just call them, Mace, you'd be all right.
It suffers from the same problems. Like everyone makes the wrong decision all the time. Anakin is like, "Oh, you have to spy on the chancellor for us." 5 minutes later, he's telling the chancellor that he's spying on him. And like the big reason is to save Padme, and to tell Anakin that he's going to save Padme, he tells him a story about a person who actually didn't bring people back from the dead.
Right.
But we could, we could do what Plagueis didn't, but like. There's no justification for anything anyone does.
And if you think there's no
reason. There's no reason that Palpatine should be this open with him.
Right. Yeah. He immediately, because you're not sure he's going to take your cause, and you immediately tell him your whole plan, your whole motivation, and again, you're selling the dark side, and he doesn't make it sound very appealing.
No. Like the writing really struggles here, and the only thing that makes this movie better is that there's better action that is more frequent throughout the movie. But like, the characters are still terrible. Like Palpatine, while showing emotion, while showing like actually good acting, his character is bad. Anakin is still bad. Anakin is just this is the worst we have of Natalie Portman, because all she does is look out the window and cry.
Looks out the window and cries, and giving proof of how awful he's been. No, I don't believe it. What do you mean he's been this? Telling you all the time.
I can't believe I'm watching Natalie Portman on screen.
Yeah,
like it kills me to watch, because again, it could have been good.
Yeah.
Like,
oh yeah, but to me,
that was the most frustrating part, is that there was so much potential here.
Yeah. No. Again, he basically turns to the dark side because he doesn't get to be called master, right? Yeah. That's really,
and because he might save Padme in dreams that he has no idea are true or not. I mean, I know they connect that with the dreams he had about his mom,
about his mother.
True. So those fears are, but like, there's also no good reason to think that the dark side will save her. There is no
right. There's, like I said, go get a midwife, right? You're pretty powerful folks. You probably can get, go have Yoda sit with her while this is going, while she's giving birth, if that's your concern. It's such a, to me, it was so easy too, right? You could have kept his mother alive and then maybe have someone kill her now, right? Mm-hmm. You could have had somebody kill Natalie Portman, and that's what he comes back and finds, and tell him that his child was killed. Yeah, that's the kind of thing that puts you over the edge. Not not getting a job promotion. If the Jedi just would have had anger management counseling, we could have avoided all this, right? It's like, they may have the Force, but he needed a good
couldn't
strength.
sense that Anakin was feeling all this anger. Like, I know
that's right. Again, you've got all these. This is the Council of the Jedi. The Jedi Council, and none of them are like, he seems. I mean, they'll say, "I don't trust him right now," but then Mace Windu goes, "Now you have my trust. Now stay here." That sort of thing, and it just. Why they should have all known. It seemed obvious to us. He walked around with this glare and sniveling and whining all the time. It's like he looks like he's pretty upset. Maybe you guys want to sit him down and have some peer counseling, some one-to-one time with this kid. But,
yeah, it just shows how surface level everything is, and so much wasted time in these movies that should have gone to developing the Jedi, developing Anakin, developing Palpatine. Like, and instead they're walking around the temple talking about some prophecy that no one actually understands.
Right. Yeah. But I could just, to me, if the Jedi become convinced that, he's not supposed to have the child's going to, be filled with the dark side of the Force because of all the dark side, and he thinks that they go kill Padme and kill his child. That would set him off, and that could set him on the path to the dark side.
But instead he turns to the dark side and ends up being the one who kills Padme, I guess, with her choking, except she lost the will to live or something. I don't know.
Yeah, that's right. It's like, why did she die exactly? She was because she was sad. I mean, she still had children. But and that, right. He, his whole purpose for everything was to save Padme. And then he's like, doing the Darth Vader chokeout thing. And it's like, now, let's a little consistency with this character. And he has this, the great argument with, he kills Mace Windu, then says, "What have I done?" And then Palpatine says, "Hey, the Jedi's bad. Go kill all the children." Okay, no conflict,
no emotion.
None. And he stops by and sees Padme. Look, I gotta go. I gotta run this little errand, and I'll be right back. And we're gonna be cool. And then he slaughters, 6, 8, 9-year-old kids. It just, it
doesn't fit. It doesn't fit within character because, I know what they're trying to do. Like, he slaughtered the men, women, and children of the Tusken Raider camp. So obviously this is fine, but it doesn't fit with episode 3 in any capacity. Like the jump from I don't know, my wife might die to genocidal baby killer is real fast.
He spent his whole life becoming a Jedi, his whole life doing good things as a Jedi.
Yeah.
And this guy comes along with a 10-minute conversation. He's like, you're right. The Jedi suck, man. We're the worst. So let me join. You and disfigured face, and this is gonna be my look in the future. Hey, I'm down with it. I'm a handsome guy now. I've had a good run with it. Now I'm just gonna turn into a hideous creature. Cool.
Yeah. And I'll say this as much that it's for kids, but I watched as a kid.
Yeah.
If you watch the Clone Wars, it actually adds character, it adds that brotherhood between Anakin and Obi-Wan. It even shows some those glimpses of anger that will lead him to it actually does a pretty good job filling in the gaps that the movies just did not do.
Right. Well, it would have been
strictly from the movie sense, it's a disaster.
Right. The second movie should have been those two and him seeing again, they go back to save his mother. And they don't get there, or they get there in time, but not really in time. And then he kills us, and then you can see Obi-Wan grow concerned. He's like, "Listen, buddy, you got to get this under control. You're a Jedi. They could have. Instead of everybody being,
you can have the side plots of the Senate and Palpatine undermining the Jedi back home, understanding there could have been a great series here, but it wasn't.
The first action scene in the second movie should be Anakin risking his life and doing some daring do, to save Obi-Wan. And then you can even joke. They did a little something it's like the third time, or no, you didn't. Yeah, that time
I guess they saved the senator. They saved Padme from an assassination attempt with slugs.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, you're right. But the action, so the action is way better in these movies, I would say.
Right, I
But
agree.
it really accentuates the problem of like you were having like these giant scale battles of space battles and like what was it Kashyyyk where the Wookiees live? I forget what it's called, but like
Yeah,
with like the Wookiee battle, and you're having all of these giant grand scan battles of like thousands of people dying and like spaceships being blown up, and none of it matters.
yeah,
Like you could have wiped out for some reason everyone else is expendable, but the war ends when General Grievous is dead.
yeah.
Like,
I'm still not sure what. I don't know. I'm not sure what he was doing. Yeah, it's like
they just throw a new character. It's like, oh well, this is the reason that the war is going badly, and if only they could stop him, this war will be over. I'm like, where is this coming from?
yeah, yeah.
All the cool stuff happened off screen before this movie.
Yeah, we needed right. Episode 1.5, 2.5, and 3.5 or something. Like, hey, let's put some good scenes in and explain some stuff and add some consistency. But
like I mean, I don't know. Like the action is better, which is why it's not boring. And like you can even get into it. Like like the spaceship scene has some cool stuff. Like getting through the ship to get to Count Dooku. Fighting General Grievous. Like there are some like decent scenes here, but it doesn't save the overall story, which is the big problem.
Yeah. Yeah. Like I said, I mean, to me, the greatest, sin of this movie is that you sort of neutered and lessened Darth Vader instead of made him a more compelling, intriguing character. Right. Mm-hmm. This was the trilogy that was supposed to give us his backstory and make him a fascinating and complex character. And instead you made him less interesting. So George, not this time, buddy. Bad job by you. But the other real kicker, another thing that bothered me in this movie is, so Ewan, Obi-Wan is fighting and Anakin there at the end, and just about kills him. And then he does the Friday the 13th, Halloween. He doesn't make sure he's dead. You know what I'm saying? It's like, bad job by you, Obi-Wan. Like, again, where's your force? Where's your force saying, oh, no, I can still sense his life force, and I need to go chop his freaking head off so he doesn't terrorize the galaxy.
I know it was like, oh, but I can't kill him because he's my brother. But, like, the alternative is that he's just going to let him burn to death.
Yeah. Right.
So even more painful death. So that doesn't quite work. But my big thing, because like whenever people defend this movie, they always go to the lightsaber fight between Anakin and Obi-Wan, and I think it's the most boring lightsaber fight I have ever seen.
It's not great. It's not great. It's not as good as the one with Darth Maul, right? So it's not the best one in the series.
It's about twice as long. There's probably more than twice as long as the Darth Maul one. Right. It's way too choreographed. And it's not a good fight. I don't know. Like, I would take every single lightsaber fight from the first three movies over this one.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to convince myself that Obi-Wan's heart's not in it because he does not want to kill this guy. Mm-hmm. And same thing, Anakin, even though he's outraged and all this thing, he does not want to kill his master, his friend, his brother, his mentor. But I don't think that's it. I think that's me trying to give credit to just another bad scene in a bad series, bad scenes of bad movies.
Yeah, no, and it doesn't look real. Like when you think about like the really I don't really like Return of the Jedi. It's a fine movie.
Yeah, but it's not. It's the weak thing in those originals.
When Luke is wailing on Vader. Like he's actually angry. Like he's probably not even as angry as like Anakin is.
Right.
But like he's real. Like the motions feel real. It really feels like he's actually trying to beat someone to death.
Yeah.
And
he's taken out a whole lifetime of frustration there. Right.
Yeah. And in this battle scene, it looks like two guys who are supposed to be angry at each other dancing.
Yeah.
And hitting choreographed moves.
Yeah. It reminded me of Venus and Serena playing each other. Their heart wasn't in it. Right?
It doesn't feel natural, and that's so. And I get it. Like as a set piece, it's pretty cool. Like I love like the burning planet. Like and that all that the set piece is cool, but the fight itself is boring.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it fit right in with
The rest of
two other boring. It's three boring movies.
Yes.
Great disappointments. I don't care how good you feel about them. They do not compare to New Hope, Empire Strikes Back, and Return of the Jedi. They just don't. I don't think they're as good as the prequels or the sequels. And I'm not a big fan of the sequels.
Yeah, the sequels are fine, or either like ranging from bad to okay. All three of these prequels are just bad.
These are bad, right?
And it's just, I don't know. It feels so incomplete.
Yeah, it feels like missed opportunity, but because it just seemed like there was some obvious things they could have done, and like you said, all the interesting stuff was, hearsay. Right? It was left off screen. Oh, this happened, but we didn't get to see it. Instead, we got to see another session in Congress. Another boring conversation between Anakin and Padme.
But ultimately, I think the biggest takeaway to take about this is the first three movies, I think, worked because they were three individual stories that tied together.
Right.
They were trying to tell one story across three movies.
Yeah, this was Kill Bill 1 and 2, right? But nowhere near as interesting. The fight scenes not as good. The conversation dialogue not as good. But yeah, you're right. This was one long movie that they split into three parts, and it just failed terribly. The other ones, like I said, were standalone movies. You could watch any one of those movies and not have to see the other. Watching one of those movies, like, oh dear Lord, I've got to go back and watch the first one, or I've got to go see. I got to see all three of them. But you could have watched.
You could have watched Revenge of the Sith without watching the first two, and you wouldn't be lost.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because, like I said, none of the movies make any sense, and
they don't matter. Like the first two.
Yeah, you go back and watch the first two, and they're like, Are you sure these are the three that go together?
What would you rate Revenge of the Sith out of 10?
I'm going to stay. You know what? I'll give this one a 4. Like I said, it was a little more entertaining. It moved a little faster. It was by no means a good movie. A great disappointment. But at that time, I had no expectations. So my disappointment was less. The first one is the one that just took the wind out of my sails. You go to the second one hoping for a little better, but
the third one,
you're like,
I agree. Man. It is a 4 out of 10. It is by far the best, but it's kind of the pile of it's the king of crap mountain. We'll put it there.
Yeah. I mean, this is kind of like our Bucko Mike rankings, right?
Yes.
It's like,
So right. I'm Attack of the Clones and you're Revenge of the Sith.
I'm probably maybe Revenge of the Sith. I'm Revenge of the Sith without the best scene.
All right, so we got all three done. So like we said, at the end of every movie podcast, one of us recommends a movie or movies to watch. I recommended the prequels. It was a terrible idea. Doug, please one-up me. Do something better. What is your recommendation?
I really have no idea yet. We should have talked about this beforehand. What I would like to do, so we come up with a good idea. First of all, we will come up with good movies this time.
Yes.
Good movie or movies. And I think we'll have to put it out. We'll put it out on Twitter and on our page and stuff. Because I don't want to make a rash decision. I have been thinking about it, but I don't want to make an announcement yet because we just gave you a 20-minute podcast about 3 boring movies. So, I mean, I feel like we owe an apology, and we've got to come back. I was thinking maybe the Oceans movies.
I would not be opposed if we want to do the Oceans movies. I am good with that.
No, let's do it. Those are great movies. Those are movie stars being movie stars, and it's fun.
Okay. So next time around, we will be talking about the Oceans movies. How many are those?
There's 3 of them. Well, 4 if you count Ocean's 8. Which
are we gonna count Ocean's 8? I would.
I mean, it's a separate thing. I mean, it's connected, but it's
Mm-hmm.
I want to go with the Clooney, Pitt, Julia Roberts, Don Cheadle, Matt Damon. Great, great cast.
I've only seen Ocean's 11, so
you got some work to do, young man.
I do have some work to do. So I have no problem with that though, because it was a good movie, so I'm excited.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's exactly what it's supposed to be. It's a bunch of people who like each other, having a good time, having fun,
Mm-hmm.
just exuding movie star charisma and lots of winks and jokes at each other's expense. It's fun. A lot of
Actual
meta
good jokes, not Obi-Wan
yeah.
one-liners.
Yeah, jokes that you actually laugh at, right? So yeah, unlike these humorless 3 movies that we just I hope this wasn't a boring podcast about boring movies. So stick with us.
I think a lot of times discussing bad movies is a lot more fun than discussing good movies, but we'll see how it goes.
Yeah, but like I said, the problem with these, they weren't just bad; they were boring. Like I could discuss Fast and Furious stuff all day, and I mean, honestly, I think most of them are terrible. But they're
we got an hour and 20 minutes of content out of this, so I think we did pretty good.
Yeah, yeah. So we'll be back to fun on our next episode.
Yeah, we'll be watching actual fun movies. The Ocean series, so Ocean's 11, Ocean's 12, and Ocean's 13.
Yes.
All right, sounds good. Then I think we're going to get out of here. Thank you for watching. We'll see you in about 2 weeks. And we'll go to Jim to tell you about the schedule.
May the force be with you.
I was hoping we'd get out of this without one of those jokes. But
Had to do
it. All right, we're out of here.
Hey, you all. Thank you for watching. I know we try to provide the most entertaining content that we can, and we'd love to spread it to as many people as possible. So I know it doesn't seem like a lot, but if you could take the 5 seconds to like this video and subscribe to the page, it helps out so much more than you know. Thank you, and let's go Bucks.